You know that feelings when something awful happens and for a split second you convince yourself it's just a bad dream? That's exactly how I felt sitting alone at that restaurant last Friday night, staring at the $347 bill in front of me. I kept waiting for the punchline for Ryan to walk back in, laughing, saying it was all some terrible joke. But he didn't. He walked out the door, his friends trailing behind him, laughing at something I could only assume was me. I had been with Ryan for 2 years, 2 whole years. We weren't some casual hookup or a situationship. We had built routines together, Netflix marathons on lazy Sundays, awkward holiday dinners with our families, even that embarrassing couples yoga class he made me try. It wasn't perfect. He had his little annoying habits like leaving socks everywhere, texting through movies, and making helpful comments about my appearance. You should try a different hairstyle, he'd say. Or, that shirt makes your arms look bigger. I used to brush it off. I thought he was just being honest. I thought love meant accepting each other's flaws. Looking back now, I realize I was excusing slow, steady cracks forming in something I believed was solid. I was just so sure we were building a future together. We even talked about maybe moving in this summer. I thought we were serious. So when Ryan invited me to dinner with his coworkers, a first since he always said mixing work and relationships was unprofessional, I was excited. I went all out, bought a new dress, one that blew my budget to pieces, spent hours getting ready with makeup tutorials and the good hair straightener I saved for special occasions. When I got to the restaurant, he barely looked at me. "You're late," he muttered, without standing up. I was 2 minutes late. Parking was a nightmare downtown, and the moment I sat down, he gave me that look. The one that says, "Really, you wore that, not even trying to hide it from his friends?" I felt my cheeks burn, but I laughed it off, trying to salvage the evening. For the next hour, I sat there while Ryan and his coworkers, Leonard and Pablo, talked about projects and promotions and strategies I couldn't follow. Every time I tried to join in, Ryan either talked over me or corrected me like I was a child. At one point, I mentioned something about a customer at my retail job. Ryan waved his hand dismissively. "She doesn't really get how things work in the real business world." I had been managing my store for 3 years, but sitting there being brushed aside like I was nothing, I started questioning myself. Was I overreacting? Was I really out of place? When Leonard asked how we met, I tried to tell the story how Ryan's coworker Vanessa had introduced us. But Ryan cut me off mid-sentence laughing. "Yeah, Vanessa felt bad for her. I was doing a favor." My stomach dropped. That wasn't the story. That wasn't even close. Vanessa had warned me about Ryan's ego before setting us up. I excused myself to the bathroom mostly to stop myself from crying at the table. I sat in that cramped bathroom stall texting Vanessa in a blind panic. As I wiped my eyes and reapplied lipstick, my phone buzzed. Ryan had posted a photo on Instagram, boys' night out. As if I wasn't even there, I stared at my reflection. I looked sad, small, like someone I didn't recognize. I told myself, just get through dinner, get through it with dignity. When I came back to the table, they were laughing again, but the laughter died down awkwardly when I sat. The waiter brought our entrees. I had ordered pasta, the cheapest thing on the menu because I was already stressing about the price. Ryan sneered, "Carb loading for a marathon." He joked loudly, "Bold choice for someone with your body type." Each word felt like a tiny slice to my self-worth. I couldn't eat, I just pushed the food around my plate, willing the night to end. Finally, the waiter brought the check. Ryan picked it up, glanced at it, and slid it toward me. Without missing a beat, he said, "You know what? I don't think this is working. I'm just not attracted to you anymore. We should break up." Just like that, in front of his friends, in front of the whole restaurant. I stared at him, waiting for the joke. There was no joke. He stood up, grabbed his jacket, and as he turned to leave, he said loud enough for everyone nearby to hear, "A girl like you should be grateful I even dated you this long. You're not exactly a prize." They walked out laughing. They left me there alone, humiliated with a $347 bill for food I barely touched. The waiter came over with a sympathetic look that only made the shame worse. I paid with my maxed out credit card. I stumbled to my car. I called Vanessa, sobbing so hard she couldn't even understand me at first. And that was the night I realized everything I thought I knew about my life, my relationship, my worth was about to be shattered. The days after that night blurred together into one long gray smear. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I just existed. It felt like my brain was stuck on an endless loop, replaying everything Ryan had said, everything he had done like some twisted highlight reel I couldn't turn off. I kept asking myself, how did I not see this coming? Was I so desperate to believe in us that I ignored every red flag waving right in front of my face? Had I been that naive? That foolish? My apartment turned into a disaster zone. Dirty dishes piling up laundry, overflowing from the basket, takeout containers stacking up on the counter. I barely recognized myself. The girl who used to organize her closet by color, who meal prepped on Sundays, who loved slow mornings with coffee and a book, she was gone. In her place was someone lost, someone broken. The worst part wasn't even the humiliation at the restaurant. It was the slow, creeping realization that maybe the relationship I thought I had never really existed, because then the pieces started unraveling. Vanessa came over the night after the breakup with a pint of Ben & Jerry's and a bottle of wine. We sat on the couch, the same couch Ryan and I used to binge-watch dumb reality shows on in between ugly crying and stress eating. I told her everything. She listened, really listened. And when I finished, she looked at me with this mix of anger and pity that made my chest ache. Then she asked the question that cracked everything wide open. Did Ryan ever actually show you proof of his work stuff? I blinked. I thought about it, the business trips. He was always too busy to FaceTime me during the late nights, working on presentations that ended with him posting gym selfies at 1:00 a.m., the vague job titles, the name dropping that never really added up. Slowly, my mind started connecting the dots. Vanessa, who had her own contacts at Ryan's company, made a few quiet inquiries, and the truth hit me like a slap across the face. Ryan wasn't a rising star at his firm. He wasn't being groomed for senior management. He was an administrative assistant. His job, his real job, was scheduling meetings and ordering coffee runs. The big presentation he bragged about, he had been the guy running the slideshow, not the guy making the pitch. The man I thought I was building a life with had built an entire persona out of lies. I sat there numb as Vanessa showed me screenshots, LinkedIn profiles, office gossip threads, tiny shards of truth that ripped through every memory I had of us. Every late night, every story about promotions, every grand plan for the future, it was all fiction. He hadn't just betrayed me emotionally. He had built our whole relationship on a foundation that was never even real. I kept scrolling through old photos on my phone, looking at my own smiling face pressed against his in selfies. My eyes wide with love and trust, it felt like looking at someone else's life, someone naive and oblivious. Around 3:00 a.m., I got a text from an unknown number. Hey, it's Cody from Ryan's office. Vanessa gave me your number. There's some stuff you should know. My heart dropped. What else was there? What more could possibly be left to uncover? Turns out plenty. Cody told me that Ryan had been lying about everything for years. Not just to me, but to everyone, to his friends, to his coworkers, even to his family. He wasn't too busy for family holidays because of important meetings. He just didn't want to admit he wasn't important enough to be missed. He wasn't too stressed about work to visit my parents. He just didn't want to risk being asked real questions he couldn't answer. And the worst part, at work he'd been bragging about dumping me, saying I was clingy, obsessed with marriage, desperate to lock him down. Painting himself as the victim, the one who needed to level up and leave dead weight behind. The same man who had a secret Pinterest board called Dream Home Ideas, and once picked out baby names for our future kids during a drunken night in. I felt like I was spiraling, like my whole reality had been yanked out from under me, leaving nothing but free fall. I couldn't even cry anymore. I was too exhausted, too hollow. I turned off my phone, curled up on my couch in the dark, and just stayed there, listening to the silence, letting it wrap around me like a cocoon, because in that moment it finally hit me. The person I loved wasn't real, the life I thought we were building was never real, and the girl who had trusted him so blindly, she was gone too. I didn't know who I was anymore or how to find her again. By Wednesday, I was done crying. Something inside me, maybe the last little piece of self-respect I had left, snapped. I wasn't going to let Ryan's lies define me. I wasn't going to be the sad girl crying over someone who wasn't even real. I needed to do something that would let me reclaim my own story. And that's when the plan started forming. Vanessa was the first person I told. We were sitting on my floor surrounded by takeout containers and a half-assembled IKEA bookshelf I had bought months ago and never finished. She was scrolling through Instagram, grimacing at yet another gym selfie Ryan had posted with some cringy caption like, "Level up, kings." I looked at her and said, "I'm going to his birthday dinner." Vanessa almost choked on her boba tea. "You're what?" I explained it all. Ryan's family didn't know what had happened. They still thought we were a happy couple, that we had big news to share at the dinner. He had been lying to them just like he lied to me. And part of me wanted them to know the truth, not because I wanted revenge, but because they deserved to know who he really was. I wasn't going to cause a scene. I wasn't going to scream or throw drinks or flip tables. I was just going to show up, sit down, and let Ryan unravel himself. Vanessa stared at me for a long time, then nodded slowly. If you're going to do this, we're doing it right. That weekend was a blur of preparation. I went through every old text, every saved photo, every shady business trip excuse he had given me over the past 2 years. I cross-referenced dates with Cody, who had basically turned into my secret agent inside Ryan's office. We built a timeline of Ryan's lies so detailed it could have been entered into evidence. Friday night, Vanessa came over with pizza and wine, and we picked out the perfect outfit. Not too flashy, not too dressed down, just quietly confident. I settled on a simple black dress, one Ryan once called forgettable, because it always made me feel strong. Saturday afternoon, I paced around my apartment like a caged animal. What if it backfired? What if Ryan twisted the story and made me look crazy? What if no one believed me? But deep down, I knew it didn't matter. I wasn't doing this for revenge or validation. I was doing it for me, to look Ryan in the eye one last time and prove to him, to his family, and most importantly, to myself, that I wasn't the broken girl he tried to leave behind. I arrived fashionably late, heart pounding so loudly I could barely hear the music playing inside the house. Ryan's dad opened the door with a warm smile. The smell of pot roast hit me immediately. Tina's famous recipe. For a second, my chest ached with sadness. I genuinely loved his family. They had always been kind to me. They didn't deserve this, but as I stepped inside, I saw Ryan across the room, drink in hand, laughing with his cousins. The moment he spotted me, the fake smile froze on his face. I smiled back, sweet as sugar, and said loudly, "I wouldn't miss tonight for anything, especially since you said we had big news to share." The entire room went still. Tina clapped her hands excitedly, practically vibrating with anticipation. Ryan's sister raised an eyebrow, clearly suspicious. Ryan grabbed my elbow a little too hard, hissing under his breath. "What are you doing?" I just smiled and said, "Playing along." We sat down to dinner, tension radiating off Ryan like heat waves. Every time someone asked a question about his big promotion or his amazing project, he dodged and deflected. I stayed quiet, sipping my water, letting him squirm, and just when the awkwardness reached a breaking point, the doorbell rang. It was Cody, carrying a manila folder and an apologetic smile. Ryan's face turned sheet white. Cody walked in like he belonged there, shook Ryan's dad's hand and apologized for interrupting, said he had some urgent work documents Ryan needed to review before Monday. Tina, being the perfect hostess, insisted Cody join us for cake later. Ryan tried to usher him toward the door, but his dad waved them back into the dining room. We all sat down again, the tension thicker than gravy. Ryan was fidgeting so hard he knocked over his water glass. I calmly handed him a napkin, feeling a strange, almost serene sense of control. This was happening, and I wasn't afraid anymore. I wasn't the girl sobbing in the parking lot. I wasn't the girl questioning her own worth. I was the girl who knew the truth. And I was about to watch Ryan's lies crumble around him. It was almost poetic. The moment Cody sat down at the table, you could almost hear the collective intake of breath around the room. Ryan's hands were trembling slightly as he tried to salvage the evening rambling about how complicated corporate structures could be and how titles didn't always reflect real responsibilities. No one was buying it, especially not Kayla, Ryan's sister, who stared at him like she was trying to burn a hole through his forehead with sheer skepticism. Tina, bless her heart, kept trying to make small talk. She asked about my job, my family, like she always had. I answered politely, smiling gently, but inside I was bracing myself for the next wave. And it didn't take long. Ralph, Ryan's dad, asked Cody how the big project was going, the one Ryan had supposedly led. There was a beat of silence, the kind that stretches so long it starts to hum in your ears. Cody, bless him, didn't even try to lie. He cleared his throat and said, "The project was great. Our boss led it. Ryan supported the team with logistics." You could practically see Ryan shrinking in his chair. His face went from pale to red to a sickly shade of gray. Kayla leaned forward. "So you're telling us Ryan's not leading a team of 8? Cody shifted uncomfortably. "Ryan's title is administrative coordinator," he said carefully. "He assists with scheduling, communications, things like that." Dead silence. Ryan sputtered something about company restructuring and temporary roles, but no one was listening anymore. The dam had broken. Kayla turned to me and asked, "Is this what you meant when you said you had something to share?" I nodded. And slowly, carefully, I told them everything about the dinner, about the comments, about how Ryan humiliated me in front of his friends, stuck me with the bill, and walked out like I was nothing. Ryan tried to cut me off, saying I was exaggerating, playing the victim. But Cody pulled out his phone and showed the texts between Pablo and Leonard, their cruel jokes about me, their gleeful bragging about how Ryan put her in her place. I didn't even have to defend myself. The truth was speaking for itself. Tina sat there, one hand pressed against her mouth like she was trying not to cry. Ralph looked tired, so very tired and deeply ashamed. Ryan's grandma muttered something under her breath that sounded suspiciously like an old lady swear word. Finally, Ryan snapped. He stood up so quickly his chair skidded back. He pointed a shaking finger at me and shouted, "A girl like you should be grateful anyone even gave you a chance." Tina gasped. Ralph slammed his hand down on the table, making the plates rattle. "You do not speak to her that way," Ralph said quietly in a voice that made even me sit up straighter. Ryan's face crumpled. He stormed out of the dining room, grabbing his jacket and slamming the front door so hard that one of Tina's framed photos fell off the wall and shattered. And just like that, he was gone. For a few stunned moments, no one moved. Then Tina stood up, gathered herself, and said, "Would anyone like cake?" We all laughed this strange, cathartic laugh that broke the tension like a knife through thick frosting. And somehow the night shifted. Instead of packing up awkwardly and going home, we stayed. We ate cake, we shared stories. Kayla told me about how Ryan used to lie even as a kid, claiming he made the baseball team when he hadn't even made it past tryouts. Ralph apologized to me quietly when no one else was looking, his voice heavy with regret. Tina squeezed my hand under the table and said, "You deserved better. You always did." And for the first time in days, maybe weeks, I felt something besides anger and grief. I felt peace. After dinner, as I helped Tina wash dishes in the kitchen, she asked me, "Were there signs, things we missed?" I hesitated, then I told her the truth. There were signs, but I didn't want to see them. It wasn't about blaming her or myself. It was just the way it was. When you love someone, you put on blinders. You choose hope over doubt again and again until one day the truth smashes through and leaves you standing there blinking in the wreckage. When I finally left their house that night, Cody offered to walk me to my car. The air was crisp and cool, and for the first time, breathing didn't feel like it took effort. As we reached my car, Cody turned to me and said, "You did the right thing, you know." I smiled, feeling something unfamiliar stirring inside me. Strength, self-respect, maybe even the first flicker of forgiveness, not for Ryan, but for myself. I had survived the storm. I had walked through the fire and come out the other side, and I wasn't going back. Not for him, not for anyone. The weeks after the birthday dinner felt like waking up from a long, heavy sleep. At first, everything still hurt, the memories, the humiliation, the weight of all the lies. But little by little, the pain stopped feeling sharp. It dulled into something manageable, something I could carry without letting it crush me. Ryan tried to claw his way back into my life, of course. There were missed calls, weirdly nostalgic voicemails, even a few fake Instagram accounts trying to message me under ridiculous names like New Beginnings 2005, as if I wouldn't recognize his bad spelling anywhere. I ignored them all. I blocked, deleted, and kept moving forward. Vanessa stayed by my side through everything. She came over with trashy magazines and takeout, dragged me out for coffee runs, even when all I wanted to do was curl up under a blanket and disappear. Cody checked in too, not in a weird, overly familiar way, but like someone who genuinely cared. We'd meet up sometimes, grab sandwiches, complain about work, laugh about dumb TikTok trends. It wasn't romantic, it was just easy, safe, and slowly my world started to feel like mine again. I rearranged my apartment. I donated the throw pillows Ryan hated. I bought new curtains, bright sunny ones that made my little living room glow in the afternoons. I started cooking again, real meals that filled my place with the smells of garlic and butter, and hope I even found the courage to open an old notebook I hadn't touched in over a year. The one where I used to scribble story ideas and half-finished poems before life. And Ryan had convinced me it was a waste of time. The words came slow at first, rusty and unsure, but they came, and with them came a part of myself I thought I had lost forever. One afternoon, about a month after everything exploded, I ran into Ryan at Target. I was in the home section comparing shower curtains when I looked up, and there he was. He looked bad, gone, hollow-eyed, like someone who hadn't slept in days. He was clutching a pack of socks like it was a lifeline. For a split second, our eyes met, and then he turned on his heel and walked away, leaving his shopping basket abandoned in the middle of the aisle. I didn't chase him. I didn't say a word. I just smiled to myself, picked the prettier shower curtain, and kept walking. 3 months later, Ryan moved out of state to live with an uncle, according to Kayla. His social media went eerily quiet after that. No more gym selfies, no more level up captions. It was like the fantasy world he had built finally collapsed under its own weight. As for me, I'm good, really, truly good. I started seeing a therapist not because I was broken, but because I realized healing deserved just as much attention as hurting. I rebuilt friendships I had neglected while I was wrapped up in Ryan's world. I went back to hiking on weekends, something I used to love before Ryan complained it was too much effort. I even booked a solo trip, just me, my journal, and a tiny cabin near the mountains. For the first time in a long, long time, I feel like myself. Not the girl Ryan tried to mold or belittle, not the girl who begged for crumbs of affection. Just me, messy, loud, creative, stubborn, and completely unapologetically enough. Sometimes late at night, I think about that girl who sat in the restaurant blinking back tears, wondering if she was imagining it all. I wish I could reach back through time, take her hand and whisper, "You survived this. You become someone you're proud of." Because I am. I'm proud of the woman I'm becoming, not in spite of what happened, but because I chose not to let it define me. And if there's one thing I know now, it's this: I would rather be alone, honest, and whole than loved for someone I'm not by someone who was never real. So, if you were me, what would you have done? Would you have stayed and tried to fix a man who didn't even know who he was? Or would you have walked away, head held high, and chosen yourself instead? I hope you would have chosen you because you're worth it. We all are.